welcome to the Noizze Podcast Network, doing media on the day of the Noizzefest. We are here with Harry from Burner. We're incredibly excited, our first interview of the day. Harry, I want to talk first. You've just come off a talk with Silosis. It would be like journalistically immoral to not just ask you about that first. How was the tour? What were your impressions and experience?
Just amazing, right? It's Silosis. The crazy thing is, you start out and you never really think that you're going to get to a stage where you're playing with bands that you grew up as a teenager listening to, and then all of a sudden it happens, and it's just bonkers, isn't it? So, yeah, just this big kind of learning experience, being with a band of that caliber, going through that. The array of venues, the timings, everything, just a lot more, I don't want to say professional, but tighter, and you really hold yourself to a higher standard, and it was an amazing experience, honestly.
So does it affect the way you talked about the professional aspect of it, the timing aspect of it? When you're actually preparing for the shows like that, set lists, band arrangements, did you change anything?
Yeah, we cut it down, and that first night, the first show of a tour is always kind of sketchy, right?
Of course.
But that first show, it was really have to hit this, so we kind of rushed through it, but then immediately afterwards recalibrate what's comfortable, where are the pauses, where are the moments that we're talking, how do we manage that, how do we negotiate that. Once you figure that out, you kind of get into a groove of it like you do with every tour, and that was great.
So for you guys, obviously, because being the support band in that circumstance, how does that actually check with the song selection? Obviously you got the June 23 record that just came out.
Yeah.
And you want to push that onto a new audience, right? But you also want to establish yourself as, just in case you introduce yourself to a new set of fans. How do you find that balance between, all right, these are the 3 or 4 songs that define Burner, and these are the 3 or 4 that we've just wrote that we're really proud of? Surely that must have been part of your decision making, right?
It was difficult because Harbinger, us, Silosis, there's a really clear contrast between those 3 bands.
Absolutely.
And for us, it was okay. We tried not to think too much about it. I guess it was kind of let's just go out there and do what we do best. And even if that means coming out and being like a fucking sledgehammer, just maybe we'll
Absolutely.
be that band who will just hit people as hard as possible and really wake them up. Maybe just shock them. And there was a lot of that. We played a song like Pillar of Shame, lots of blast beat and black metal influence. Very different to Harbinger, very different to Silosis.
Of course.
And that, I got a lot of stunned faces during that, which is cool.
Yeah, that's
for us, it's cool. I think in some respects, we managed to reach a new audience with that, and in other respect, kind of, maybe not, but at the same time, the fact that we're out there, the fact that we're doing it, it's nonetheless a thrill to us to really get there and just hit people as hard as possible, basically.
Can I just jump in for 1 second? Just mentioning the sound of Burner.
Sure.
One of the things that drew me to the band when I first listened to them was this idea of the Boston and New York East Coast hardcore scene. Burner could have so fit on that stage. Can I just ask you whether the 70s and 80s East Coast hardcore scene was an influence for you guys at all? Because obviously our generation is somewhat after that, but there was a part of me when I first heard Burner, I was like, man, these guys they could have played with Cro-Mags, man. These guys could have played with Cro-Mags.
Well, maybe not that far back, but one thing we do get compared to a lot is 90s and early 2000s metalcore bands, that very early wave, super dissonant with that mathy element. A lot of that we get compared to, which is weird for us because Nathan's our head songwriter, our guitarist, and for him, he'll say he'll get told, for instance, I remember Josh from Silosis told him, have you guys listened to Blood Has Been Shed, which was your man from Killswitch's first band, and I knew that band, but Nathan never heard of them, and it's just kind of go back and listen to it in the van on the way to the next show, and it was I see what he means here, there is something, but for us it's not a conscious decision. I guess it's kind of that sound that's been diluted down through the bands that we all listen to, and then eventually gets to here, and then somehow we make a sound that ends up sounding like a throwback, and that's
you can sort of draw that thread through.
Other people can, and that's all right. I can't say no to that. Right?
If people are finding ways to find your music relatable, that's kind of the dream, isn't it? However you get to us, that's fantastic. Whatever route you've taken to get to that band. I want to talk about It All Returns to Nothing's been out for about just under a year now, around June 2023. When you wrote that album, has your perspective on it shifted now that you've gone out on it and on tour with it? For example, when I think of a band putting together songs, you have those discussions about it, you make those writing decisions, you have an opinion about how that song's going to be perceived. Now you've taken it out on tour as a support band. Does that change your opinion of the album at all, looking back retrospectively, or is it almost confirmed the way you thought about it in advance?
Honestly, the latter, because for us, that songwriting process, that album, the EP and the album were a natural continuation. We didn't stop to think too much about what the album was going to be. It just kind of happened. Yeah. So for us now that question you've asked, that's the question we're asking ourselves now with new material. Like, we're pausing, thinking about, well, what's the next step? Because everything else felt very natural to us. But now it's a question of like, well, where do we go from here? Yeah. Who's looking at us? What kind of sound do we want to develop? We've done all this stuff that just felt natural to us, but now we have a choice to really think about what we want to do. And now it's less of a reaction and more of a kind of, I guess, a planned step in terms of what direction do we go next.
Well, that's really interesting. You've had 2 successive June releases, 22 and 23. Does that imply something's coming in summer? Or am I reading too much into it?
Unfortunately, there is nothing coming this year. I can tell you that. Because, as I say, we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
But there are things that we're working on. We are working on new tunes. We are working on a new project. It's just a matter of what form, what best suits this sound.
Of course.
Is that a split? Is that just a bunch of singles? Is that an EP? Is that another album? I can't say for sure right now, but there are things that are in development. And
you still consider it in the All Return Stuff in cycle right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think kind of because we were a band that formed, well, we started out kind of the 4 of us getting together finally in 2020. It's like we spent a lot of time practicing, then we started playing shows in 22, the EP was there, then the album now, and now it's like, now it's like breathe. Now it's like you can.
This is the first really time you've had a conscious approach to your own music. Like it's been really like a roller coaster where it's like this, then this, then this, and it's almost like the songs that you had 2 years ago and the way that you've been producing it. It's almost one complete era, almost where you sort of move into something else. That's going to be exciting now, right? The idea that you can actually have that time to sit down and consider your own material and.
It is. It's also kind of terrifying.
I can see on your face,
it's like
nerve-wracking.
It's like. Back then it was like the EP came out and people liked it and it was like it felt like almost we could put out anything. I mean, we already had most of the songs of the album, but it almost felt like we could put out anything and people are going to really dig this.
Yeah.
But now it's like, shit, it's that second album. What do you do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sophomore album syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, how do we get past that? We joked that we should have released a shitter first album than we could have done better.
Lowers expectations. You can do what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, it is exciting in a way to be able to step back and think about it and really like, okay, now we can develop it.
Yeah,
we feel a lot more confident. Yeah. You know, we feel confident now that, you know, we play the tunes, people like them, and if that felt organic to us, then maybe if we just don't overthink it, maybe we'll produce something that to us is just as good.
That makes sense.
Can I do my Jane Doe question that I've been waiting to ask for 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
As we walked over here, I noticed the Jane Doe jacket. I was like,
should I show the... Yeah.
Please show the Jane Doe jacket for the love of God.
Look at that.
I watched Converge play Jane Doe in full at a festival in Manchester.
Damnation
Festival.
As did I.
Oh, you were there,
Very
amazing.
Cool, yeah, of course.
There was like when I was there, I couldn't help but feel like so many things that I love about like metalcore and hardcore music has been influenced by that album. Can I just ask what your first experience of what that was like, and how that might have influenced the band going forward? Because I'm going to assume that was the influence for your musical aspirations. But Jane Doe is like it's like the metalcore album, especially like original idea of metalcore. So can you just talk to me about like how Jane Doe inspired you? Because I've got a million ideas, but I want to hear yours.
I can talk about how it inspired me as an individual because I take a lot of inspiration from that record. Well, I say lyrically, not really any lyrics, but kind of that fierceness, the strength, the energy of it, the vocal delivery, obviously. Everything Jacob Bannon does, he's just like a god,
genius,
right?
Man.
Yeah, he's insane, right? But one thing is interesting is we all always get compared to Converge. Everyone pulls on Converge.
Yeah.
Now, Nathan and Finn, I guess I say head songwriters, they're not huge Converge fans, really. Like they're aware, they appreciate it, you know, they dig it. But again, I guess it's like I said earlier, it's like that dilution of the influences,
absolutely,
which is fair, you know. That's the way it is sometimes. But for me, I remember sitting down when I was probably like, I don't know, 14, maybe 13, 15, maybe, and just sitting down on my computer and just hitting play and just like getting absolutely, as probably everybody has in all of history, getting absolutely pummeled by Concubine, and just being like,
what is this?
Like,
what is this? This is crazy.
Wow, this is incredible. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I say that even when we listen to that record as a band, and you know, the boys aren't huge fans of it, but they can appreciate the kind of scope, the ambition, the kind of scale of it. Like a track like the title track, for instance, that's a journey, that's an odyssey. And when you listen to something like The Firming Flame on our debut album, there's a sense of scale there, there's an odyssey, there's a dynamic to it. Not necessarily to say we looked at the two of them, but you know, you listen to it.
It's a clear thread.
Yeah, you listen to it, you ingest it, you dilute it down, and eventually it comes out as, you know, a way that it influences your music. So I guess maybe in that sense, That's what May came out.
That was awesome, man. Thank you. The second I saw your jacket, I was like, I've got to let Jane down. I've got to ask Jane down. That was awesome.
100%. That's a couple of questions from us. So, first of all, you got Bloodstock coming up in August.
Yeah.
I know that was a big deal for the band. Like, where does that for you, like, not only just rank in terms of band achievements, I'm not asking to sort of the Mount Rushmore of where Burner are right now kind of thing, but like on top of that, like how does that affirm the direction that you're going as well? Like that's got to be such a not just a reassuring, but like an inspiring thing to be able to do that. Like Bloodstock here is obviously a sort of a massive deal for sort of not just metal, like Download being like the Nike Air Jordan kind of version of Download festivals.
Yeah.
Like Bloodstock's almost like the real fans metal festival almost, where they have this sort of wider, more versatile thing. Like, how does it feel to be sort of selected to play a band like that, or invited and that sort of thing? It's got to be huge.
Crazy in a bunch of ways, obviously. I mean, I've told this story before, but we spoke to our agent and he said to us, you know, for this year, 24, maybe you get to do these festivals, maybe.
Yeah.
But something like Bloodstock, that's going to be next year.
Yeah.
And then we got the message, and we got the ask, and it's like, fuck, dude. Or like, what can you say to something like
Yeah,
that?
the timeline's been sort of
Wasn't
brought
at all
shorter. Yeah.
I mean, wasn't all expecting that. I mean, that's amazing because, you know, what can you say? That's the dream of so many bands. That's why we have Metal to the Masses, right? It's
Absolutely.
not just a big opportunity. It's a dream for so many people, and that's an honor, genuinely, to be this short into our career. To say we've been playing shows for 2 years.
Incredible to think about, by the way. 2 years.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's crazy. I can't emphasize how
Yeah.
grateful I am about that. It's bonkers. And as you say, it was interesting you said about kind of this differentiation between like Download and Bloodstock and that kind of attitude.
There is that feeling, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for me, it's this idea of like, the idea that we're going to go there and there's almost like a real familial feeling
Yeah,
from every band that I've
100%.
spoken to
100%.
that played that festival or just attended it. There's a real familial feeling to all of it, and the idea that we're going to get to be there, be a part of that experience, is just that's just amazing. Honestly, I don't have the words to express my amazement, gratitude, thankfulness. It's bonkers, isn't it?
It's wonderful. We'll get you out here on this, but we're about to play Fuel a little bit later. Very intimate show, obviously, with it being a festival show and stuff. You've just come off this massive tour. You're about to play a festival later on with Bloodstock and that type of stuff. All the avenues are opening up. In the midst of that, we've got this tiny little festival sort of appearance here where you're playing in this really enclosed, sweaty, classic retro kind of venue, really. How does your approach adjust to that kind of thing? And also, in terms of your personal sort of affiliations and affinities, do you like those tight, enclosed venues, or do you prefer the big fucking chords, balls to the wall, hello Wembley kind of approaches? Like, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Burner at Wembley, let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, we don't write music for the latter,
Of
you know.
course.
So I mean,
Oh no, Bon Jovi cut this out.
yeah. I mean, it's funny, man, because like I grew up in Leeds. You know, that's where I went to shows, and you know, tight venues. I went to the Well, I went to the Cockpit, I went to Boom. You know, and I've always loved that. I mean, one thing as well that defines Burner's sound is this kind of hardcore feeling to a lot of the music, and that kind of hardcore feeling is never really going to be. I mean, I say that there are hardcore bands reaching that point now.
Yeah, of course.
Now it's amazing to see.
Yeah, look
But-
at what Turnstile are doing.
Absolutely.
Like that. Unreal.
But that it always come back to a tight, sweaty, a sweatbox. You know,
Yeah,
and
that's the
that,
heart of metal right there, isn't it?
absolutely. And so for me, it's always going to be a venue like this where there's that nerve, that feeling, that
100%.
intensity. You can always bring things together, and just you can always ask a lot more when
Yeah.
you know, of yourself and of the audience when you're in a space like that, and if everybody's grooving and get along to it. So I'm gassed, man. I'm hyped. Yeah, it's gonna be fucking killer.
Let's go.
We
Let's
can't
go.
wait to see it. Harry from Burn. It's
Hey,
been an absolute
thank you
pleasure.
very much.
I can't wait to see you show, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Noizzze Podcast. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Cheers, dude. That was awesome, man. Thank you so